That's it. That's the intro.
We'll play it again.
Evita wanted to say hello to everyone before we started. So this is Evita.
Hi.
Evita's a dancer and she's supposed to be in South Africa right now. But she's at home like the rest of us.
I was not able. It was not safe to go.
Not safe to go, not allowed to. Well, we were concerned about having you come home. So anyway, we're glad you're here and safe.
Me too.
And I invited Evita in to come and see what's going on because she might be doing something like this for her own dance school while everyone's stuck at home. Freddy Fufu says greetings.
Hi.
So I'm going to be just sort of, hey, there's Jeff. Remember Jeff? He's from Washington State, Portland.
Yeah.
You met him
Jeff.
at the summer school. Yeah, so today's session is going to be really just I haven't done a live session on YouTube for a long time, and it's going to be an opportunity just to maybe, hopefully, take our mind off the current state of things, talk a bit about guitar, answer some questions. We're going to have a special guest coming in at 5:13. I asked for him to come at 5:15, and he said that's the wrong time. It's got to be 5:13.
Which is 12 minutes.
12 minutes around. So I'm just going to maybe field some questions or do some chatting about what's going on. So thanks for coming to say hi, Evita.
You're welcome. That was a pretty piece. What is that piece?
This is Lección número 4 from Las Terceras Lecciones de Guitarra. It's the Segreira's lesson number 4. We use it at our very last exam, the grade 8 exam. It's a study. And so it sounds like a tremolo study. But actually, and look, I'm going to do something fancy here.
Oh, let me see.
It actually is just I and M. So if it was tremolo, obviously. I actually don't have the best tremolo, so I'm happy that it's I and M.
That's so cool.
I know it's
angles.
Fanciness. We actually might be talking with Ben a little bit about.
You gave away the secret.
Oh, people who read the email already know who's coming in.
All right. Well,
anyway,
have fun.
Thanks.
I'll be stretching or something in the living room.
Yogaing.
Bye, everybody. I hope you're doing okay.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for tuning in. This is a very odd time, isn't it? And I think that it's just a nice time to come together. And I'm in a privileged position where I have, an email list where I can reach out to you and a channel like this. And I'm going to try and do a few of them over this week and maybe next week. And it could be really fun. So, please, while we wait for our special guest to appear at 5:13 in T-minus 9 minutes, I'd love to hear about how you're doing, what's going on with your life right now. I see Mr. James Erickson is here tuning in from Long Island. James, I haven't been able to respond to your email, but I'm so sorry about the Long Island Guitar Festival. I mean, it's sort of one of the many things that have been canceled, but it was such a big year, big lineup. I really feel for you and for Harris as well. So, but I'm sure it will come around and be better than ever. So, yeah, I've been thinking about you as we all consider about these events. So I'm on the board of the New York Classical Guitar Society, and we were actually just on a conference call. Is it Monday? Yes, last night, talking about future concerts, and yeah, it's tough times. Yeah, there's Ian from Hawaii. There's one Miss Carrie Conroy, an ambassador for CGC. Rafael Elizondo. I know, Rafael. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. You have great videos on YouTube. I really appreciate the work you do. Mr. Matthew Levanich is watching. He's a wonderful teacher down in the Delaware area. So great to have you here, Matthew. Yeah, lovely to see the comments coming in. And Magdalena all the way from Sweden. Really, really nice to see everyone. So I'll be doing a few more of these, and I also am keen to hear some ideas. I have some ideas for some different kinds of projects for this week and next week, or however long this might go on, just for people to join in. Let's see what people are saying. So Brent is saying all face-to-face courses have been cancelled at my university. It gives me quality time with my dog. I appreciate the positivity there. Yeah, it's Ben's going to talk about that a little bit. So I I think all university courses have been shut down, and a lot of them have gone to distance learning strategies, so online strategies. And actually, I just had a phone call who I have to get back to a certain someone today asking about some advice about teaching online. Not so much what we do at Classical Guitar Corner, but rather what people sometimes call Skype teaching, which is video. I use Zoom as my program, but FaceTime is also very good. Be interesting. There's a number of teachers on here, and be interested to know if you have any preference over FaceTime, Skype, or Zoom for purposes of sound and maybe latency issues, because there's a little bit of a consensus that FaceTime is actually a little better than Zoom. Better than Skype. But I tend to use Zoom because it's very stable and easy to use once people get the hang of it. There's Robert Guerrero, so and Jacques from Canada, wonderful. Richard is saying that the Harrisburg University have all moved online. The chemistry teachers are cranky. Timothy is working on Capriccia Arabe. Yes, I think there's going to be a lot of people doing a lot of really good practice in these days, and that is, I suppose, the silver lining, if you would look at it that way. But let's talk a little bit about what's going on at CGC. Just for people joining in, we are going to have a guest coming in to say hello and sharing some thoughts. I think you'll be excited to hear from. But in the meantime, we, as I said in the email I sent out, we're very fortunate in that we do have a team that already operates remotely. So we have James Erickson, who's on this call, and he's out in Long Island, and Sanya Plochel, she's in Madrid. She actually was unfortunately supposed to be in South America doing some concerts, but she emailed through saying she could do all her coaching calls again this coming weekends because she's in Madrid. Dave Belcher, who many of you know, is in North Carolina, and I'm here in New York City, as is Nikki Todesco. And then we have some sort of people that we occasionally collaborate with around the country. So there's, we're used to working remotely. And the story that I tell you is that I was supposed to be in Baltimore this past weekend. There was a Guitar Society summit. And actually, Matthew, I was looking forward to meeting you there, but it's a shame that we didn't get to see each other. But we did have a meeting on Saturday morning where we had Matthew Hinsley's presentation. And Matt Hinsley is the head of the Austin Classical Guitar Society, and he's a formidable leader in many respects. And he gave a presentation largely based around a theme of form and essence, and it's a little bit too... it's not what we're going to go into here, but one concept that I really appreciated and latched onto as a good reminder is that not even in times like this, but in all the time, it is a responsibility of leaders and artists to be considering how they can serve their community and what they can do. And that really hit home for me. And we're doing an initiative with Evita's Dance School, specifically trying to actually help some teachers that have been put into a bad position, losing their teaching opportunities. And here at Classical Guitar Corner, it really is, I think, an opportunity to be there for the community at large, who are largely stuck at home, potentially scared and nervous, as I am, as Evita is as well. And just a nice opportunity to do something a little different. So yeah, Matthew Levanich was saying Wilmington Classical Guitar has cancelled the March concert and the masterclass with Jordan Dodson, who's a wonderful player. Philadelphia Classical Guitar Society, I saw that they cancelled Anna Vidovich's concert. Yeah, there's just a kind of not a flood, maybe it's a bit of an exaggeration, but a lot of emails coming through saying this is cancelled and that is cancelled. And a lot of dancer colleagues of Evita's, and also I'm starting to see musicians as well, reaching out to create GoFundMe campaigns, because the instantaneous removal of their livelihood, their gigs. Freelance musicians will be largely dependent on those gigs. It's just disappeared. And so there's actually GoFundMe campaigns to support musicians, which we might sort of start bringing up over the week. If I hesitate to recommend one now because I don't know the details of them, but those are floating around. In the music world, I've seen more umbrella ones where they're bigger pools of money that will be then divvied out, but I don't really know who's running them, so I can't really speak to them. Whereas I notice in the dancer world, there's people actually, individuals, setting up GoFundMe's for themselves. So yeah, we have exam month this month, and so we've had a lot of exams come through at CGC, and that's been a really fun time because we get to see the progress of everyone that's been working hard at CGC, and those responses will be still coming out April 1st. We've probably got more time on our hands now to review those. We were working on a duet book, but I'd probably think we might put a pause on that because this may not be the best time to put out ensemble music. The last thing I'll do before we bring in our special guest, oh, actually, what am I talking about? 512. So I will call Ben up. I've never done this before, by the way. I've done a live stream before. I've never done this Skype thing. So Ben Verdery, who many of you know, is a very good friend of Classical Guitar Corner. He's recorded a course where he's been on the podcast. He's come to the summer school. And he lives exactly, can't do math, 53 blocks away, straight down Broadway or Amsterdam. But so he's in New York City, and we're about to call him. It's 5:13, and let's give this a go. And we might have some questions for Ben, but it'll be just interesting to see what he's up to. Now, give me a moment. Here we go. Technology. Cross your fingers.
Oh, say!
Hello, Ben.
Hello, Simon. Hold on, let me put my guitar down. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. I'm excited to do this. I feel very positive that it's working so far, that we've got you here. We've got a lot of people commenting already and listening. So some people you definitely would know from the summer school, from CGC. They're all saying hello. Oh, and even Mr. Gary Lee, the venerable luthier from New Jersey, is saying hola, Simon and Maestro B.
I want to show everybody. I'm so excited. High E. Yeah, so anyway, when was this? 219. So we're in 220. Did you lose me?
Well, we lost you a little bit. You kind of froze. You were very still. You did that kind of street performer being a statue thing. But so can you say about the high E again?
Well, Gary made me a guitar with a high E. Oh. So I'm very excited about that. That's my high. I use it, I'm starting to use it more and more.
There's got to be a Spinal Tap joke in there somewhere.
Yeah. Yes, but mine goes to E.
Yeah.
I've got 4 octaves. So yeah, I practice my 4-octave scales.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's...
Not 3, 4.
My octaves go to 4. There you go. This keeps on giving. So, Ben, I mean, yes. I'll say to people watching, which we have about 100 people on the feed right now, which is great.
Everybody. Aloha. I'm drinking hot tea.
I'd ask if people have a question for Ben to please write it in, and I'll scroll back to your questions after Ben and I have a chat. But Ben, I'm curious to know what it's been like for you the last week. I mean, I guess I know some answers to these questions, but could you share it with everybody else?
Well, I'm in my, what's it been like? I'll start now and then rewind, but now we're really sequestered. We go out Rie went out. I haven't been out in 2 days, but my wife Rie went out, who's next door teaching the flute. So that shows you where we are. She's been teaching online for a few days now. Her schools are closed, and that's the beauty of what we do. We can still communicate. So if you hear a couple of flute notes, that's what's happening. But so right now, yeah, we're sequestered in town, in this apartment, and kind of we're doing everything a little bit extreme. The gloves, the mask. If we go in the subway, I didn't wear a mask on the street. And I don't intend to use the subway, but Rie, my wife, went on the subway the other day. So that's probably a good idea. And just washing all the time. And, but I think so that's, we're kind of going the extreme route of I'm not going out unless I have to. I might go out for a walk, but we have a terrace, so I tend to go outside. They say getting a little sun is really good. So when the sun shines, I was meditating out in the sun yesterday, but today's not so much. So that's where we're. And then it just, be in the last 5 days, like everybody, it augmented. It just seemed like, we have this crisis. And then now today in New York City, all of the schools are closed. The bars are closing at 8. The restaurants are closing. So, I think we're just trying to be good citizens and not mess with it. I'm also at the age group where people say I feel great. I mean, but we're at the age group where they say it's more dangerous. So yeah, we're not getting together. We're not having any kind of even family get-togethers because people have to travel. So, but I think the important thing is to kind of, remain optimistic and just do what you can. And realize that, like the great proverb, Jewish proverb, this too shall pass. But I think being informed, I try not to watch. I try to be informed, but also I clean my studio, which I showed you, which, to have little projects. So I've sort of like, and now today's a big Karuli day, which I want to talk a little bit later. I'm having a great time with Mr. Karuli, discovering his music and reading about his life. So yeah, I have little projects. I'm going to write some music. I have to learn new music. So that's the beauty of. But I'm lucky because I'm here at my home. I think there are a lot of people, a lot of students that aren't really home, and so I really feel for them. I think that's the thing is, there's so many people that I'm worried about, and I guess that's a big thing too. How do you deal with worry, and how do you deal with feeling like you can't help anybody? So I think this is great what you're doing now. I think all of us just have to be more compassionate to those who don't have it so great. I also don't understand. I just talked to my friend on Maui who said that there's absolutely no toilet paper. So I kind of don't understand the human thing about, well, I don't have any food, but I got toilet paper. What can I say?
It will be studied. It will be studied over the ages. Like why? But anyway, I'm curious to know. So I know that Yale, as with many universities around the United States and around the world, has asked their students to go home if they can, I suppose, and they've put the learning onto video lessons. And have you done some already?
I haven't yet. We're on vacation.
Oh, okay.
And as I wrote to all my students and said, this is one wacky vacation. So we're on vacation. We start Monday. I have received a fair amount of emails from the school and our dean that we will, be doing online teaching starting Monday. Certain things like chamber music is off. They can't because they can't really play with other musicians. They don't want any contact. Right. But yeah, I can still hold seminars. Tomorrow I'm going to get a coaching on Zoom because apparently you can have remote people from remote areas all join in, so you can see everybody in the screen. and I'll be doing my individual lessons, and I'll be doing even my sight reading class in a different way. You can't play, but I have some fun projects. So I'm going to be dealing, almost normally, except for chamber music. The big problem is what to do about degree recitals. I
Mm,
think that's something that's still up in the air, and that we're wrestling with. So I don't think we have an answer yet. I sent in an idea to the dean this morning about my views about what should be done about that. Because there's so many students who've practiced so hard, and this is their graduation recital, and they can't give it. So, but I think we'll find a way to deal with that. That will be so. That's where we are. I think I'll know more. I could tell more. Certainly fill you in if you haven't, want me to newsletter. But how it goes after next week. You know what I mean? Once I have a week of lessons, and I'll know more. Yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, have you done? You must have. I think you've told me about it before, but you've done Skype lessons or video to video lessons before.
Very
Very
rarely.
rarely.
Nothing like you're the maestro. Very rarely.
Well, I mean, I enjoy the challenge of. I remember when I was first trying to coerce Evita into the idea that dance could be communicated through multimedia, and one of my points of view was that if you don't need to touch the person, of course, in dance, in many cases you do, but let's say you're giving a workshop as a dance instructor and you're out the front, then in theory, that should be able to be done through a screen as well. I mean, there's no physical contact. You do need to, I think, use your words differently. I think it's a really great opportunity to consolidate how you communicate certain things,
Yeah.
because you certain ways of communication are removed. And then there's a little bit of just getting used to kind of on-off talking. It's sort of, how people often just interject in normal conversation, agreeing, acknowledging that they're understanding, go, uh-huh, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That sort of, it breaks the flow of online education. It's got to be a little more sort of, you talk, then I talk, then you talk. That just takes a little getting used to.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point.
But I will
Yeah.
tell you something that might blow your mind, Ben. Are
Okay.
you ready for this? This is
I
something you can also do on Zoom. Oh, hang on. Wait. You're on Skype. You're not going to see this at all. What am I talking about? Oh, that completely blew
I
that.
thought you were going to say sustain because it seemed like the chord just kept sustaining, and I was thinking, is that a benefit?
No, I just I just completely realized that because the people watching the live stream would see that, but actually, okay, what I've got is a little webcam on a little stand that's meant for a phone, and it's angled so you can actually click a button, and then suddenly you look at the right hand.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
very
We got to
nifty.
talk about that. We got to talk about that.
Those kind of
Uh,
things actually make quite
but you'll
quite an
need that,
impact.
in order to see other people's hands, you do need another camera, right? If you want different angles.
Yeah. Otherwise, you have to do this kind of thing and make them all seasick.
Oh, yeah, that is. I am gonna. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. Whoa, that's funny how that is. Oh my god.
So Ben, I
Yeah.
think we should take this opportunity to maybe tell a few stories about the project that I was very excited to be a part of. That was very very recent. I'm gonna do a little.
Oh yes, let me get one.
uh,
Yes, indeed.
and I do have the ability. If you want, I can play with good audio. It's not through a microphone. I can play some of the tracks if you want.
I think it's up to the public. I mean, ask them what they sure. I mean, I don't. You could play maybe sections of tracks.
Yeah, of course, not
Or
a whole track, but
portions. Yeah.
um, well,
Well, let's start it. Yeah. By all means, let's start it right off with the first opening chord. You
hang on.
want to do that?
What do you want to? What he said, or do you want to go straight to Ellis
Yes,
Island?
this guitarist. I have this young guitarist that joined me on what he said, and I think people should hear him.
We'll play a little bit, and then you can tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm opening it up now. See.
This
Okay.
is me. I'm hoping. This is fingers crossed that this will actually work.
Okay.
I have a feeling that that's not coming through the way I want it to come through. Probably because you're on Skype. People are
I
saying,
can
play,
hear
play, play. Yes, play.
the people want it. They say yay.
Maybe I can do it
Good.
some other. Hang on. Maybe there's another way. Uh, did you hear that? No, you probably wouldn't have heard
I
it.
did. I heard it loud and clear.
Oh no! Oh really? Loud, loud, and loud.
Yeah.
Clear?
Yeah.
Let me try. Just 1 second. Everyone's gonna be patient because this is the no sound. People said no sound. So okay, hang on. Why am I? The mouse is going berserk too. Sorry, this is technology. We're going to be lenient.
Hang in there, peeps. I could do a change of clothing.
Okay, let me try again. I'm going to try dragging it on the desktop and try this little.
I'm going to get something while he's.
Yeah, you go ahead. I'm going to. No, it's not going to work. That's a shame.
Okay. So while Simon is trying to figure that out,
Yeah.
can I talk to my friends?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so I want to talk about making recordings. I grew up buying records, and records were such an important part of the journey and the excitement of being a young musician. And it just so happens that I have here the first record I ever bought with my allowance at the little record store in Danbury, Connecticut, where I was born, but I can't remember the name of the record store. It may come to me, but I still have it, and here it is. It's got tape to try to hold it together, but it's
Oh wow.
the Beatles' second album, and it still plays. We had a gathering the other night with a bunch of guitarists from San Francisco, including David Tannenbaum and Rich Savino and Judah Kayel, and they all came over, and I played this. But this is the album. This is the actual record. I still have it.
Oh my
And buying records, and then there were many, many more that followed, which I still have most of my collection, as you see down there. But not everything. But it became an obsession. I mean, not like some people, but the whole experience of buying a record, the excitement, the anticipation. You might hear one song from a record, on the radio that would be the hit, and then you get the entire album, and you would listen to it in a way that you just rarely do now. And it's an interesting. So here's, this is when I was 7 or maybe 8, and now I'm 64, and this CD, the new CD, is still the same feeling. It's still the same idea of creating a body of work that works as a whole. Even though we don't listen to CDs, or most of us don't listen from the beginning to the end, I still think very carefully about programming them, because I grew up with, well, what's going to be the first song on the second side? What's going to be the second song? What's going to open the record? In the records that I bought as a teenager, and then right up through classical music, less so, because you would buy, well, here's something that when I bought it was a treasure, the St. Matthew's Passion, but by Telefunken Records. It's a very prestigious company, but that was a big event. And then you open it up and you have this, all of these things, the instruments, the singers, the actual pictures of the instruments that they played. You couldn't get enough information. Here's a manuscript. So when it came time to make this record, having had that tradition of buying, recording, of course I felt, yeah, I have to talk about the music, which is, and work hard on the design and what it looks like, even though it's in miniatures, version. Um, so I think, yeah, I didn't know we were going to go there, but since I'm at home, that's the joy. I could show you this stuff, but it still means something to me to create a work, a record, particularly my own music, but even if I did an all Bach record, obviously I'm going to choose very carefully about what goes on that, So I thought I'd share that.
Well, I
So
really, it was, I thought a very beautiful comment that I heard on an interview with Chris Thiele, whom I'm a big fan of. He's a
yeah,
mandolinist, Punch
giant.
Brothers, live from here. And he talked about an album as a musical form. We talk about sonata form and ternary form, rondo
Yeah,
form. And I loved that concept that it's not just a vehicle for these days sending files or delivering files or like bundling them together. It's a musical form, and I think bands like Radiohead and I think classical programming recitals, well, there's a consideration at different levels for different people, different situations, and it can really be a whole act as a whole as opposed to lots of just random tracks. Now, Ben, I will say that I have figured out the audio, I believe.
great.
So,
Well, we'll pick up on some on that comment, and we'll show how some. I'm very happy with the way transitions happened on this record. They were very carefully thought out. So go right ahead. Let's start again.
all right, I'm going to.
Start from the top. Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
So that's the opening section. Yeah, of a piece I wrote called "What He Said." And I want to ask Simon a question. I want to ask you a question, but I'll just say just a tiny bit. It was written and dedicated to Thomas Humphrey, who was the guy that made guitars for me for many years. Celebrated guitar maker, and was a really dear friend. And in fact, I used to live 5 floors above him, and I'll never forget the time when not 5 floors, 3 floors above him, and he called up and said, "You got to come down here right now. You got to hear this." And I went downstairs, and I walked in he had this little alcove, octangular room, which the guitars always sounded great in that room. In fact, we all thought it was a little bit dodgy because no guitar should sound bad in that room. And that's always where you try his guitars. So anyway, I walked in, and there are these 2 guys, with beard, dark hair, like exotic to me looking guys. And they started playing, and my head blew off. I didn't have a head, and I still don't, and now I'm still looking for it. And that was 1978 when the first time I ever heard the duos. And so this piece was written for the Assads, and but dedicated to and that was I've known them for that long, and we all always knew Tom very well, and it was the beginning of our relationship was, besides the guitar, was always about Tom, because Tom was quite a character. So yeah, so the piece is sort of written in a call and response pattern, very gospel like. And I remember having a rehearsal with you, Simon, um, and we finished, and you said something so poignant that it stuck with me. He says, "Well, I'm not sure about this piece yet. I'm not. I don't know if you. I'm not sure about it, or it's not there yet. I'm still figuring it out." Do you remember that period? Do you remember saying that?
Well, I do remember that it took a while to, some pieces stay a little bit of an enigma for a while because, I mean, partly just because in this piece the ensemble is really quite tricky because there's offsets that need to be very accurate to have the correct effect, and if they're not accurate, then it just sounds a little. It's harder to understand what's the musical intent behind it. I think maybe I don't remember saying that in particular, but I do not remember feeling I just don't get it yet.
Yeah,
But well,
yeah.
let me read you some comments. There's been a lot of. We've got sounds great. Yes, I really like it. Such energy. Wow, love it. Sounds great. Sweet. Sounds wonderful. Stunning. Thumbs up. Awesome. International round of applause. Bravo. So lots of comments. It's great. It's great.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, that's due to you too. We had a great time. Um, I remember that session feeling really good. I mean, I can't remember. I can't remember when it was. Like if we had played before that,
We had
but
we
we had performed it quite a lot. So we found our voice in the piece. And like you say, I do remember some really bad performances. You know, like,
I have
you
no
know, like
idea what you're talking about.
yeah. We both came also like, whoa, because it blows by you, and you have to kind of be on your game. But I think by the time the recording came, we both knew what we wanted, because I think I'd like to say to people, at least in my experience, just because I wrote it doesn't mean I can play it. Never mind play it. It doesn't mean that I understand it in a way, but I don't. I know with the joy of working with you is you're such a great musician. I can always throw ideas and say, what do you think? And you're going to tell me. And that's why I remember that comment. But it took us a while, but then I remember feeling quite exhilarated by that session, that we had a good time in it. And it seemed the sound also, because we recorded in Sprague, and I think we were inspired by the sound of the hall.
Well, in my memory, when this goes well, and I do remember going very well at Symphony Space.
Yeah.
Um,
And GFA was a good
yeah, but it's the kind of piece that the music won't save you, your playing won't save you. It's if you feel comfortable and in control. You got to, because you got to sit in the pocket, and because if you feel jittery, or you just, how sometimes pieces get away from you, they feel like they get away from you. If this piece gets away from just one of the people, then it gets a little out of kilter. It's so finely tuned to that Hockett style call and response that if it goes, so I
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. And that was the thing. I was writing it for the Assad, so I thought, well, they're the ensemble of the galaxy, so they can't do it. Of course they can do this, but I never thought I would play it.
Right. I do like that quote. Just because I wrote it doesn't mean I can play it. Somehow. Now let's have a listen to something else. So we can obviously we'll have a listen to scenes from Ellis Island. But is there anything else you'd like to give a spotlight to?
Well, yeah. I mean, we'll just kind of.
And we have the ability to play a video from YouTube, I believe.
No need to play video, but we'll do. If you can do Now and Ever, the second track, and go to like a minute from the end of Now and Ever, of the first movement. So track two, the last minute or minute plus of track two, maybe last 2 minutes of track two, something like that, minute and a half.
Okay, Here it goes. I feel like a radio DJ. Here we go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I wanted to show that as a, because I use a capo, but I leave the sixth string open. So that's what people might hear. And there's also a very bizarre scordatura. And for 3 out of, actually, from track 2 all the way pretty much to the end, I use scordatura. I just love.
Can you tell? For just so people that might not know what that term means?
Yeah,
Just...
alternate tuning. So I'm not tuning the strings as we know them. And when I start to write a piece, I often have to find that tuning. It gives me the harmonic world and also the sonic world that I think I want to write in, inhabit, as it were. And so that I wanted to play the end of there because with the slurs, I can create sort of, with that tuning, I have intervals that open strings that allow freedoms and sonorities that I never would. And at the very end, I play, I pluck behind the
these guys.
behind, but behind the capo, so you can really get.
Oh, you mean the capo's here and you play?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I wanted to just show that world of that piece, and then the second movement is much more rhythmic, but it does end in a hymn. If you could play the end, the last minute of the second movement, we won't play that. It's very fiery up until the very end. Yeah. So I think I have a couple of interesting things to say. Um, that was when written. This piece was written for my dear friend David Russell, who we all worship. It was very interesting because we worked. I would send him the music, and he would video himself playing and send it back to me. And the very end that you heard, I wanted, as I played it there, a fade out to drift off in almost a question, because the piece, although we didn't want to say it, we wrote it in the liner notes. It's kind of my response, and I played it actually at your Summerfest, I think the first year. It's sort of my musical feelings from my perspective of slavery, in this country, and what we, just the complexity of it. So that was what emotionally what the piece was about, and I just wanted to end it that way, of kind of drifting off. And as you heard, David really didn't like that, and he said, "Oh no, I want a chord at the end." And in his record, hold on one second, if I can find it quickly. Here it is. If this beautiful record of David's called For David, is he recorded that piece, and he put a chord at the end.
Oh.
And I talked to a dear friend of mine, a composer that I admire so much, a woman named Elizabeth Brown. And I talked to Elizabeth, and she said, "Well, I would never let anybody do that. I mean, to my music." And I just thought, I think in most of the collaborations, I thought, well, I can do my version, and he can do his. His is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, of course it's gorgeous. It's David Russell. But I thought you'd find that interesting, because how you end a piece is kind of gigantic. And, but I still think his is beautiful. I couldn't do it, but I think his is beautiful. So I wanted to share that about the process of writing for another musician and the changes you go through, because that's a big change. The other thing I want to say is that how pieces of mine serve me in certain ways. So I love that ending very much, and I used it in a video called Improvisation Goyeska. If you could call that video up.
All right. All right. I'm going to try and.
No, we don't have to.
I'm going to try and work some magic.
I was filmed in this Roman arena in southern France, in the town of Arles, the same town as what's that? Van Gogh. What's that guy's name?
Vincent.
Yeah, Vinny. So
hang on, wait. I'm. What was the name of the video I need to pull up?
Improvisation Goyesk, like Goyesk, and then it's my name, of course.
Oh, I see. All right, Ben. This is you're challenging my abilities.
This is crazy. You
but,
can just start.
Hold on, I can do this. I can do this. Hang on.
I know you can. You're Simon Palace. Damn it! I'm coming, you damn it.
Okay,
Sorry.
Here we go. Yes. Then I need to go. Yes. Okay, I don't think you can see these, Ben, but I think everybody else is good.
Oh, I don't need to see it. Yeah. players. Yeah. So
Just a second, I have to click on a bunch of things.
yeah.
All right, yeah,
The
great.
sun's coming out. That's why you have sun in my face. So I just what happened is that uh, in a, I'm going to say in 6 months there'll be a film coming out called Ina's Goyeska. So I won't go too into it. It's this fabulous documentary about a American artist who painted a bull ring, the floor of a bull ring, that exact right where you saw that exact bull ring in Arles. And it's a tradition. And this friend of mine, Chris Burke, made a doc about it. And we went back there to shoot extra footage for the film, where they used my music, and particularly that piece. And so they said, well, I woke up. They woke me up like, said, come on, we're going to the arena and we're going to film you. And I just improvised off of the Now and Ever piece and just kind of played little bits. And they filmed me in that there, so that's all live. I mean, yes, we did some editing, but it shows you that you write a piece of music and it can have other lives and go to that. That's been really interesting for me, how sometimes I use things in it. And I thought it was appropriate because it's a movie about bulls, about the history of bull and art. And there's a lot of bloody bullfighting. And I was thinking, well, I want to write in those scenes from the perspective of the bull. So it seemed appropriate, but I thought you might find it interesting. I wrote this for David, and then it's taken this other life and it's developed. And this recording is quite different than David's. I haven't heard back from David if he likes it or not, but I think that's the joy of music. It flows, and it has it's not concrete, and it evolves. There's an evolution to pieces, and certainly with me. And I changed quite a lot of things from David's recording. But if it wasn't, the fun thing is, if it wasn't for David asking me to write that, I wouldn't have written it. So there's I owe him much, and I adore the way he plays it. But that was the piece 10 years ago, I think. Yeah. So anyway, it's
a nice, interesting thought. We don't often think about, when pieces are dedicated or where people collaborate or someone does an arrangement of a living composer's work. We don't often think about the impact of the other person in that process. I mean, we can think big examples like Segovia and Ponce or Segovia and Castelnuovo Tedesco, but even just small examples of that last final chord, it's just interesting. I have to think of Evita in this moment because she's in a dance where there's a leader and a follower, and she often talks about how the follower can actually influence the movement quite a lot in their own way. It's in a different way than leading directly, but it's just an interesting thought that your collaborator, perhaps not intentionally, will put a bit of a stamp onto the work.
Yeah. And that brings us quite nicely into the next piece, which is from Aristotle, which is a young musician, Mark Martin. And you can actually show that video of maybe show us doing the last piece, which I love all of them, but the Wineless Cup, if you can find the video and fast forward it, and they could see Mark. It's exactly the recording from this. We made a video to the recording, and it's in. Too bad we're not doing this in my living room, but it's shot in the living room.
Right. Oh, here it is. Actually, I only have. How do I find the one with Mark?
Just look from Aristotle.
Oh, there it is.
Are people able to see the video? So you got.
Yes, actually. Now I have.
Oh, so you kind of have to fast forward.
You want the end where it's in your apartment?
Yeah.
How long is it? It's 12. Okay, we'll play the last minute or so.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, here we go. I got to remember how I did this. That.
I promise this will be the end of the videos.
That's fine. I think that's so cool. I really like that track, Ben.
Oh, thanks so much. Um, I appreciate that. I just so with Mark, there's so much to say, but I'll finish up just a bit with this piece. Like I said before, with Now and Ever, and the next piece, I have to find like the right sound to write it. So I came up with this chordatura that's so it just I don't know why I just liked it, and so it's down. It's everything down. So this is a low D, G, C, F, and then A sharp, and then the usual E.
Wow.
So I could. So
Mm.
so it allowed me different possibilities, and it worked for Mark's voice. But again, usually it's just like I just tune and I say no, no, and then I play intervals, and it's just exploring. It's not. I think about it, but I'm also going from intuition first, and then I look at intervals and see what voices. Like I thought having that top E be high would really help me, but I liked the lowness of everything else, and then there was something about that interval being really working for the third and second string. So yeah, and Mark is just one of the greatest young musicians I've ever met. He can do. If you want to see the rest of the video, you can't believe what comes. I always say you can't believe what comes out of this guy's mouth. It's just, and the way we collaborated was I wrote the piece, and then I always say like 75% of kind of the notes and the rhythms, that then he comes in and he matches sounds, and if I ever run, he decides what sound in his mouth works for the guitar in that instance. So and then he would change things too. He would have a say about tempi or about sections, and so that's why it's completely co-wrote as far as I'm concerned, because of course I could suggest things, but I'm not gonna tell him, and that's the collaboration that again was his idea. For example, I thought, well, what's the text going to be? And he said, well, I love studying linguistics and Aristotle's linguistics. So, the first piece is called The Poet Being an Imitator, and we're just imitating sounds of nature. And he was a great, it starts off with him making, like at the end of that movie, you hear him do the ocean sounds like, and so he starts the piece with the ocean sounds, and he said, well, what do you do on the guitar? And so I said, well, I can do this.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Right. So here's what happened. So I'm rubbing the guitar, and we're doing a run through. We're about to play at Yale. And I said, then I got really uptight. And I said, man, I don't know. I don't know if I can get in front of my Yale graduate students. And it's just fruitcakey. It's good, and he says, it's fruitcakey if you think it's fruitcakey. If you really believe in it, it won't be. And that was a great teaching, coming from a guy like, 34 years younger
That's
than
Mark
me.
that said that.
Yes.
Nice.
I'm supposed to be the loose guy, and he's going, dude. And I was going, I don't know. It's like, so it's been a fantastic collaboration. We're working on other things, but I thought I'd share that. But yeah, so.
Well, I love it. I think it's a really good mix of instruments. I think what happens with experimentation is sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss, and something's in between. But I just think it's really balanced, and it adds so much. Because guitar works really nicely with like a cajon or some percussive things, and I love the fact that it feels more agile being a beatboxer does he describe himself as a beatboxer, or is there another term?
No, that's the thing about the piece. He sings, but yes, it's sort of like he's known for that, but he teaches. He's an extraordinary teacher. But he calls himself a mixed vocalist. So he does sing, he does do, all kinds of. So that's part of the reason I love working with him, and is that I'm able to give him a vocal line, and he's got a beautiful voice. And so and just great. Obviously, you hear. I mean, just to hear him do that rhythm is so freeing for me. To I feel like I'm with a drummer now. But like you say, there's something about his voice that fits the classical guitar like
Yeah.
a glove. It's crazy.
He's also a lovely guy. I mean, I remember Evita and I took a train home once back from New Haven to New York, and he's got this sort of effervescent, bubbly energy. He wants to share his excitement,
He wants you to, like, I'm going, he's teaching me, and he's going, look, you got to be able to make a fool of yourself when you start beatboxing. That's the point. And, and you're going to spit all over everybody, which I have to say, beatboxing for this situation now definitely has to be done online. But, yeah. But, yeah, he's an extraordinary guy. I can't say enough about him, and what a musician. And yeah, really looking forward to doing some new music. We're thinking of some new pieces together. And I do want to play, if you can go back to the record, because I want to show the audience, our friends, like we were talking about, the record albums and sequencing.
Mm-hmm.
So I really love, if you listen to the end of Wineless Cup,
okay,
maybe the last, just so they get the groove, the last.
You want to get the transition.
Just, yeah, and then listen to the beginning of Rain.
Okay.
I think they'll understand. I know they will.
All right, here we go. I'm going to back up even more.
Great. Yeah. So you see, like, I just love that transition of out of the waves again comes more percussion,
Yeah.
and that is getting back to the Chris, Tillis, the idea of the form of the record being, the record itself being a form, I think is what you said.
Yeah.
He said, that you really do think about transitions, even though I know in this. So in other words, I'm not really succumbing to people saying, well, nobody listens to a full CD. Yeah, that's right. But I still conceive of it that way. But maybe not in the beginning. I mean, I can't say, you sit around, as you know, and you think, well, what would go with this piece and what would go. And sometimes you just want to record it and you're not sure how it's going to fit, But that brings us to our last piece, which we have to tell our audience about. I mean, I do want to say the piece Rain Falls Equally is very dear to me, but just to maybe people find it interesting, after I write a piece, I have a few friends that I always play for. and you're one of them, and David Leisner is another one. And I remember playing this for David, and he was so helpful. He said, I think you've written a fantasy, and you should call this a fantasy. And that really opened it up for me because it's very sectional. And yes, it's about rain, but it's also about the title, which is because it was originally written for a competition, and then I revised it a tremendous amount. And then my friend Jack Fee said, well, why don't you add little, because I had above the music, I had little bits talking about different types of rain. There's one section that is about swimming underwater and looking at the rain. I love doing that when you're underwater and there's a gentle rain, and it's just kind of great. There's one section about that. There's one section about a rainbow, etc. And so he said, so I decided to actually list them, all of those little things. There are 15 of them, and sometimes they're only 3 lines of music, or sometimes they're a page. But that was again another suggestion of friends. So I've been, in the beginning that whole beginning was different until my friend Jack V said, oh, I think you should try this. And so I'm very lucky, to bounce my pieces off friends and get little ideas before I finally decide. I don't know if it's being a Libra or not, but I find it very hard to make decisions. I mean, so I always, go, oh, maybe that should be this. So yeah. But that's all I just want to say. And when I recorded it with the great Matt Lefebvre, best engineer, one of the greatest I've ever worked with, it was so rainy. We were in New Haven.
Really?
We were in the room that you and I recorded Ellis, and the rain was coming down like you cannot imagine. So it was really appropriate. Yeah. So yeah, should we go to play the end of Ellis and just talk about it, or maybe do you want to play? We have to play your solo. You have to find your solo.
Well, it might be annoying, but I might skip through some sections.
Yes.
Okay, I'll do my best.
So, but we could do the beginning up through your solo.
Okay. Here we go. No, I have to say, Ben, I want to tell something. So in that solo, we were in a room. It's an orchestral room, and the recording studio is sort of up and behind a wall, and so
Yeah,
it's not. There's no glass. You can't see anything, and so I would be playing this solo, and obviously it's as we'll talk about the breadth of the other parts, but this is just the one guitar, and Ben was coaching me through it. There's a little fallback speaker. What do you call it? Anyway, but
yeah.
where you could say, this, that. And so it was like getting closer and closer to what you wanted. And then I started doing things that you liked. And the reason I could tell you liked them is because I could hear you through the wall going, ooh, 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 ooh. Which,
Oh, I remember it so well. We ever no, don't take that return. Yes, yes, like that. Yeah.
and I thought it was so funny because you were so excited about it that you could hear it through the wall, and it was going then back into the recording. That would be amazing if you could go deep into the sound file and find those little fragments.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Matt probably has them. Yeah, I mean that was the fun of it because I didn't really. I wanted you to find it. You kind of course, you knew how to shape it, but then you find yourself in the recording situation. You find yourself getting so involved in the details and attached to them. Oh no, don't take that retard. No, don't play that note so loud there. Yes, no, it's like yeah, it was really funny. I mean, say something about for the audience, like Ellis Island has 12 parts. Now, many of them double.
Yes.
Excuse me. And it has 12 parts because I wrote it for a guitar ensemble that had 12 players. So, and they were not very advanced. So I felt things should be doubled. Now, you could argue, why didn't I reorchestrate it? I kind of didn't want. I want to say, look, I'm going to record it the way, don't fix it if it ain't broke. And I wrote it 20 plus years ago. And so you and I got together, and after years of conducting this piece, I never played the parts before. I didn't know, and I wouldn't say they're hard, but they're not easy. And I remember going, man, I've been yelling at people for years, and now I can't play this. And but we really had to do it with a click track. And how did you find the experience? It was not easy.
Well, I can tell you that I've worked with a click track a few times, and every single time I'm so nervous for being to appear like a fool, because you're supposed to be a musician of experience, and yet you feel like you can't play a rudimentary beat in time, and it's such a I don't know what the word is, but I feel honestly a little embarrassed if I come back and hear it and it's out of time. It's like, can't I just play in time? But it is one of those skills that I think I have come across certain classical guitarists who can do it. I'm always hugely impressed. But in general, we are so good at stretching time musically. That's how.
Well, it's more human.
Yeah, but when it does come to lining up 12 tracks and the story that Ben's told a few times is that we went back up after layering all these tracks, and before Matt, the recording engineer, had time to adjust them so they were all sitting in the pocket, he pressed the space bar to hit play, and it's just this sort of wash of noses. It's like a what's that piece? It looks a Turner at the beginning of 2001, The Space Odyssey. It's just this scramble of notes. It's like, okay, Good luck with that. Gotta go.
That's what you said to him. Yeah, Simon says, good luck. And I, of course, was in a panic because part of me thought, he's not going to be able to do this. We just spent 2 days trying to record these parts. He's not going to be able to get these together. But he did. I know it took him hours, but he really did. So, yeah, I mean, do you want to play the end? Should I tell him the whole story of the end? I mean, or is it too long? No, I mean, just about
let's play. We'll back announce.
Okay. So are people still with us? I have this feeling that it's the two of us, and everybody says,
no. We've had No, honestly, we've had hundreds of people, and we've got lots. I can just to have a little break.
No, no, that's cool. But tell them I'm thrilled that they're listening. You want to take it from the garbage can section?
Hang on, what?
No, the
Oh,
cross string section.
that's the first
I
time
call
I've
them
heard
garbage.
it. All right, I mean, I got to find it first. Hang on a second.
I should be. I didn't know we were going to do this, or I could have given you timings.
No, it's okay. I think we're all pretty. Here we go. I found the garbage cans. I just didn't know that was the technical term. Here we go.
Maybe play just a little bit before my solo going into it, not the whole solo, but
Okay. It really, listening to it, I remember very vividly when you sent it to me, the sort of final edit or very close
Yeah.
to the final edit, and I was in Italy with Evita for our wedding. One of our we try and take one trip a year where we get away together to our anniversary. This was called wedding anniversary, and I was and I just it's really moving. It's a really amazing piece, Ben, and this recording has such an expansiveness with Hawa's voice. I mean, can you tell us about Hawa and how she came to be on this track?
Sure. I mean, I yeah, I'll answer that first. I got all these CDs where you're playing that are all versions of the end, but this is actually, in other words, LEGQ. I wrote sort of a mini version of the end for them. I had a band called Euphonia, and we this was the first Ellis Island of rearranged, the first rearranged Ellis Island. Then we did it again on a CD, which we did yet again only from what you played till the end. Those are all these versions.
Right.
And then this is the original from the high school group, the Curtis Guitar Ensemble. So I haven't heard this in so long, but it would be really interesting for the two of us to listen to.
Huh.
But to answer your question, well, as some may know, I often, because of the first version, this Euphonia, whereas the first time I ever did the ending, I rearranged the piece and used the ending. My friend, the great flutist Keith Underwood, genius flute player and teacher, played this incredible penny whistling solo at the end. So that gave me the idea of, wow, a solo over the end is so moving. And so when I would conduct it, I often would play an electric guitar solo. And when it came time for the record, I had fully intended to play an electric guitar solo at the end. And at the last minute, I kind of thought, I don't know, it feels ordinary. And because again, I'd never done a proper recording of this. There was the recordings of the end of it, like I showed you, but I'd never done the piece from beginning to the end, and it had been done so much, I'm happy to say, a lot. I mean, in different countries, etc. So I thought, man, I want to get a really good recording, and I was quite sure I didn't want it to be an ensemble of 12 guitars, really great players, for example. I wanted it to be you and I and get close up on the guitar so that we would have the ability to mix, etc., and have in a way more freedom. Never mind that it would be crazy expensive to do the ensemble. So I thought I was going to do an electric guitar solo, and then I thought, I think I love singing so much, I want a singer. And I originally thought of the great Pakistani singer Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, who has no longer been with us, but I thought somebody like Nusrat. And I sent a word out to a friend who sent some tapes to singers, and they didn't quite fit the sound of their voice wasn't right. And then I asked the great Derek Gripper, a friend of mine, I wrote him and said, Derek, I'm looking for, and then I thought I wanted Youssou N'Dour, was a fantastic singer, African singer who often sang with Peter. He's the one that sings with Peter Gabriel in that great song, In Your Eyes, and he just takes off. And I always think, oh, I want Youssou. I want a voice like that, but I wanted a woman. I knew I wanted a woman. I didn't want a male voice. And so he said, well, maybe Hawa's free. And I thought, you can't be serious. So I had actually heard of her in Carnegie Hall. Well, people can only say no. It's the old thing. You asked them, and she was available, and we worked it out that she would be on tour in Madrid, and they booked a studio, and we would have 2 hours for her to sing the ending. And I wasn't planning on her singing in the beginning, like before your solo, but it seemed a little bit like maybe it would be cool to have a little bit of her hinting, and then she comes into the end. Okay, so I had sent her a little sketch of things. She doesn't read music, and I knew that you should send something. You can't just say, well, look, I'll explain it to you there. So we sent it, and I knew that I wanted to use the words yearning to breathe free from the Emma Lazarus poem from the New Colossal. So when it came time for the day of the recording session, I woke up and we did a WhatsApp, and I'm sitting, I could even call it up on my phone here, but I'm sitting with my phone and I'm listening to this woman, and I got into the session late. So we just did the ones that you heard, and she did one take. She had already done the front part, and then she said she now was going to do the back, the solos that you just heard. And she said, her manager said, because Hawa doesn't speak English, she said, well, what do you want her to sing? And I said, well, first of all, she said, can you sing in her native tongue? And I said, of course, which I think is called Bamama or something like that. But I'm not getting it. I think it's from Mali. And so I said, of course, sing in your native tongue. And I had sent a sketch, but I basically knew she would improvise, just the way, that's the nature of her musicianship. I said, I want you to improvise a solo. You go crazy. And she said, well, what do you want me to sing? Like, what about? What? I said, well, sing about yearning to breathe free. I mean, what you feel in your country. And, because I thought it related to what people were trying, any immigrant that's trying to get to someplace, and so, but I had no idea what she was going to sing, but those were my instructions. And so she sang the solo. Now, again, I'm not hearing the words, I'm just hearing the music. And I was so taken by even the way she starts. She comes in at that first interval. I mean, you talk about a master musician, that, she decides to come in on those intervals, and it's, and so she finishes a take, and I'm crying. I'm sitting there with the, my cell phone just dropped. I'm sitting there with a cell phone, and my tears are coming down. And she says to me, well, was that okay? I mean, what am I going to say?
I'll have my people call your people.
The thing is, you're not really emoting. I'm not getting anything, So I'm saying, are you nuts? And so she did one or two more. And then when we got the tracks, Matt and I thought, well, we have to superimpose the two takes, because you can't write stuff that cool, because they often, when people improvise, they will use a similar line in a different place, once their thinking is, once they've got a grip on it, they're still improvising, but they're using, again, they know something's working, and they'll do it again, and then it will be a different place, and it sounds almost, canonic. So that
was kind of a masterstroke. I think that layering, it really is very effective.
Well, we were thrilled, but here's the interesting part, and this is something that I think everybody will find interesting. Ellis Island always, when I got the lyrics from her, because I figured, well, people are going to ask, what is she saying, and that was a big, that was shocking, because, when you don't know what she's singing for the longest time, which it didn't have the same effect as when I read it. And so I think that, it will be, I told her, just go free, sing freely. But when I read it, I thought, wow, that's a different ending. It ends, it always ended so triumphantly. But now with her lyrics, it ends more of a plea. She's saying, because I said, she says, oh, my family, Africans are exhausted. Africans have suffered. If you are poor, you can never achieve your dreams in this world. If you are powerless, you have no direction in life. Oh, my people, don't you know? Africans have suffered. Africans are tired. Africans are tormented. Suffering is terrible. Poverty is terrible. Empty-handedness is terrible. If you are poor, you can never achieve your dream. Oh, and that's pretty strong, to put it mildly. And when I read that, I thought, wow. The piece used to end in the celebratory way. Now with this, it's a different meaning. And that was interesting, because I told her, sing, improvise. And now I see that she brought the piece into a more current situation. So whereas it might have been celebrating Ellis Island and celebrating the joys of different people coming together, which is what I intended. Now it's because I do use spoken word, which is a part that we're not going to play, but where I have in the midsections people from 8 different countries, all talking, some reading poetry, some reading stories. And that was intentional to say, yeah, look what people bring to our country or to any country that they immigrate to. And then you have that, Kawa kind of complemented that to make it very current. So I hope people find that interesting. It was a journey for me to kind of see, wow, this person turned the piece, didn't turn it around, but gave it a meaning that I didn't see coming, and I didn't really internalize it until I just had the lyrics in front of me. But I think now it is a very current piece. I think anybody that's trying to get away from a horrible situation is going to feel similar to her. It's just that she's African, so she's singing about, but it could be somebody from Venezuela. It could be anybody who is desperate and wants to leave or wants peace in their homeland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a second. Yeah, I mean, it was a really. It's sort of follows on nicely what we're talking about. Just a small influence from David Russell as a collaborator, adding things and shaping things a little bit by bringing on people onto the project. And this was really, it took things into a totally different direction. We did have a question from Jeff, which is a good question because it's an amazing effect.
Not Jeff Peterson.
No, not Jeff Peterson.
Oh, okay.
But about the garbage can effect.
Yes.
Do you want me to show it, or do you want to show it?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, this is an effect. It's a really cool effect. So you take one string and then you cross it over the other, and you can sort of get pitches. And it's been too long since I've done it, but the groupings is I use PI to get the groupings. Tricky. I always found.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing.
Yeah.
What we did do more of is, we all know that Taraga gave us that with the Gran Jota. I think is one place he used it, and I'm sure in the I'm sure in the 1800s somebody did as well, maybe Costa or Carulli. But one of the things that's cool is if you bend it, that is what. So in other words, you're getting these pitches, and you place.
Right.
That's what I like. So not only do you get this slightly percussive effect, but then you get these odd quarter tone-ish distorted pitches, but you do have to bend the strings, and it's a little nasty on you have to be careful you don't separate that, your skin from your nail, which is the worst.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, Ben, I mean, I think a number of people have already sought out the recording from listening to all this. I mean, it is a wonderful experience. I hadn't planned on this being a deep dive into the album, but I'm so glad it ended up being that.
Well, me too. I'm thrilled, and since you were such an integral part of it, I mean, you've been such a great, as I said, you're one of my go-to people. But it was such a joy to play with you, and especially Ellis Island. I mean, that was really an undertaking that I hope people will appreciate. Just the two of us sitting there, we had to do, okay, part 1, section 1, do it again, and like the engineer, we have to give a huge shout out to the engineer, this guy, Matt Lefebvre. He's just an extraordinary, first of all, he's a great musician, which I think most great engineers are. And he's written phenomenal rock songs, but he just has a great ear. But he also has that demeanor that a great engineer has to have, where he's supportive of what you're doing, and he knows how to get you to trust yourself, but he's not gonna lecture you or can decode anything either. He stays in the background, and when he needs to be, so that's a gift, you know.
Yeah.
Never mind understanding sound and microphones. That we all. So I have to hand a lot to him. But if people can know that it was, I think, far more difficult than you and I, at least that I thought it was going to be, just to sit and play that one part, you know.
Mhm.
And now, okay, now we'll do the next one. We're on, what guitar are we on now? Only guitar 8. we have 9, 10, 11, 12. Whose idea was this? But I think in the end, and we did use different guitars. I used my baritone guitar. Hold on. I love this because I can show you guys everything.
The show and tell time. Yeah, I used the two Paul Sheridans, but one is spruce and one is cedar, and we did this so that we could get a little variety in the tone. Because, you know, obviously if you lay a 12 of exactly the same guitar, or 6 plus 6 of just two guitars, you get a little bit of a homogeneous sound. I don't know what the effect would be. Maybe it wouldn't be that bad, but we thought just adding a bit of variety in there would mimic kind of ensemble nature.
That's what I wanted. Yeah, so I used Gary's guitar for most of the record, and then my Smallman, and then this big old baritone by Otto Wollwinkel, and I love it. It's just such a great. And I also do one of the solos on this as well.
Right.
But like you said, you know, we thought it would be cool to at least, which was another reason why I didn't want to do it. I also didn't want to do this all me playing all 12 guitars. I just thought that would be so less interesting, even in terms of the energy than you and I. Having your energy and your playing style, and would make it. You know, never mind just the fun we had, because we did have a lot of laughs, but that was a big deal to me to have, and it was great that you brought two guitars. So yeah, and I even used a 12 string, my steel string guitar, which he used a little bit, you know.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah.
But this is great. I mean, there's a lot. You know, it was a thrill to talk about it. My God.
Yeah. I don't know let me see if there's any questions that came through. There've been a lot of people commenting along the way. I've just got to check. Go back. There were a lot of people really have enjoyed it, Ben, and enjoyed your pieces.
I'm so excited.
So
it really thrilling.
I don't think I think we covered a lot. So I think I don't know if there's any particular questions that we need to address. But yeah, thank you, Ben. I think this has been a really great experience. I mean, there's a lot of people have been watching, so they thank you everyone for staying through and listening to the whole thing. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, enjoy and stay healthy.
Yes, you too, Ben.
And enjoy. We'll talk soon, needless to say. But everybody stay healthy and realize that we're going to get through this wherever you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man.
Thanks so much.
Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.
All right. So thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. That was quite an experience. I had planned on calling in for 10 minutes to say, hi, Ben, how's it going? Oh, you're teaching online now because everyone's out of school. But then that's where it went. So for those of you, I hope I made it clear that the album of Ben's is called Scenes from Ellis Island. And the tracks we went through What He Said, then Now and Ever, then the ones with the vocal artist was From Aristotle, and then The Rain Falls Equally on All Things, that was the fantasy piece, and then finally Scenes from Ellis Island, the famous place of immigrants that came through Ellis Island to come into New York City. For many people, the first port of entry into the United States. And I'll say that I went there with Ben a few months ago, and it was really kind of a moving place to be. It's sort of, I encourage you, out of the things I've done in New York City that are sort of touristy things, hugely interesting and enlightening. And anyway, I highly recommend it. So I probably won't take, I'll save some Q&As for some other time. because I'm planning on doing this some more. If you have, I know some people I'm planning on calling up, but if you have any requests of who might call up on one of these live sessions to offer some respite from the stressful days we've been having, then please send them through in the comments. I'd be happy to do the best that I can. And yeah, thank you. So Linda and Donna and Brent and Jeffrey and Richard. I'm glad you made it home, Richard, back to New Zealand when you did, because it sounded like things were getting tight there. Drew, Scotty, John, thank you so much for sticking through all the way to the end. I know it was a long session. I'll probably download this file and put it inside of the Academy, but as long as everything went well, I'll probably leave it up on YouTube as well if anyone wants to rewatch it. I know that there's a kind of almost a 60-second lag or so between the comments that I see and when I speak. So what can I do? I don't know what I can do. I've been I can give, what can I do? I can play a little bit of the album. There we go. That would make sense. Just a little bit of outro music, just in case I don't want to miss anyone's comments. What can we do? Let's do this. Is my personal favorite track. Maybe we'll end on this. We'll do it at the end of the Wineless Cup again. Here we go. Oops, there it is. All right. Thanks, everyone. Stay healthy. I'll see you soon. Bye.